Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews More, the Women's Broadcast TV Network, Women on TV.tv, iTunes 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, and iHeartRadio. And I have to say this, Rachel, I didn't want to cancel anything, and I was like, I got to talk to this woman again because you made me laugh and talked. And I'm just so happy to see you again. There's only one of you. It's Screamin Rachel. What's been going on with you?
Oh gosh, so much. The pandemic has been awful, but you know what? I haven't let it slow me down too much because every week I've been going virtual with my DJing. So every week, every Saturday, usually from 7 to 9 Eastern time, you can catch me going virtual, and you can actually see me on the Trax. If you go to traxrecords.net, you can catch me there, or in my case, because I'm actually legal because I am the record label. So you can also catch me on my Facebook or on my Trax Records Instagram, which is pretty cool because it's legal, because we have the verification to be who we are, so we can legally use our music. Because right now, DJs are being kicked off of all kinds of digital platforms.
I know I've been having my DJ, I call her mine, but her name is DJ Badass. She was on our show in studio, and it was one of those things where I'm wanting to help her because she's also a singer performer. She's world renowned as a DJ, but also people who have performed with her, the country acts or whatever, know her as that singer performer. And it's tough. And I tell me this, the women disc jockeys that you know, do they get grouped in a single way if they're doing many things, even though they can do better things better than a guy can? That's not fair, is it?
It isn't fair, and definitely now, I mean, as far as being a woman in this industry and being a woman, let's say producer, DJ, even in my case, like record company, owner, I think people are still not used to that. It's almost like they're so backwards still. For as far as we've come with everything, it's still kind of considered a rarity. And I was just watching J-Lo. I guess she was on the People's Choice Awards, and I just caught like a commercial or something, or one of these little bits and pieces. I didn't watch the awards. And she was saying, when everybody told me I couldn't be a dancer and a singer, it made me try harder. And then I couldn't be an actress, dancer, and a singer. So that's the whole thing. I think you're right, where there are many women that can do a number of things, and people want to kind of pigeonhole you and just put you in one place. And especially, I think, with women in regard to women that are artists, DJ producers, because they think of a woman as just being an artist,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the way they want you to be.
That's not,
So,
and I think that's why I fight for that, because I don't like that. And by the way, you look gorgeous. I don't know what you've been doing.
oh, thank you. Thank you. It must be the Vital that I'm taking. It's a kind of like vitamin thing. They say it's the youth drug, so I don't know.
No, you got this sexy, vivacious glow to you.
Thank you.
What else has been
Well, I
happening?
mean, so going virtual every week has been a lot of fun. We are working on our network. I work with Rights Inc. out of the UK, and Rights Inc. has been involved for a long time in the fitness business, and they also represent a lot of publishing catalogs. They work with my label, Trax Records, and so they have been involved in building a network. Now they have a network called Body and Balance, and Body and Balance is really fitness, but we are starting a new show called Jack with Trax.
Ooh.
And that show, yeah, because it's going to be fitness, but not like the boring, oh my God, I've got to tune into my fitness show. This is going to be like, wow, this is going to be fun, because it's going to be about like dancing and jacking and freestyle, and just the idea that, house music makes people happy, so it's good for you physically, but also you don't necessarily have to make the perfect moves to jack with tracks, because house music, jacking, simple move, you know, the like they say, like being in bed standing up. That's one explanation I've heard for what is jacking. So that could be one. But basically revolving around, you know, moving your body to the music. And so I'll be DJing, as well as we're going to give fitness tips. We're going to have mocktails and recipes for mocktails, you know, so it's going to be a fun show. We're almost going to make it like a house dance party, because now that the whole world has changed, we may be nothing but virtual for God knows how long.
Well, if you remember the last time I interviewed you, I said it was going to be like this for 5 years. No, vaccine or not, you could see what's going on in the movie industry. You see those no nightclubs open. Even the one,
Yeah.
my assistant is in Miami, Florida, and she's scared, and she's a singer, but she also works in a restaurant as her day job, and she's got, Brian, it's too crazy down here. They're just not taking it seriously, and that's not good. And you can see all the cases going up in general. But my whole thing was, this is where music, because the movie business is sidelined, except if you're watching at home. This is where I think the music business can uplift. You could still put out those sounds and everything like that, and people want to listen to something that makes them happy, right?
I agree with you there. And I think what has really happened is, with music, there are so many platforms that your music can be heard on. You can tune into Screamin Rachel and Trax Records on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, so many ways to actually listen to music, which is a great thing. But now, what we're doing is we're needing to take the visual along with the music, which is something that you've been doing because you're involved in the visual and the talk show aspect. But I think it's going to be really important that everything is virtual, and this will be the new way that we'll be reaching people. And because of the problems right now with rights to music, when you own music and you write your own music, there's a lot of issues with rights. One of the things that's going on is there is only one, and this sounds crazy, right? But there's only one legal platform right now where people who are not verified and playing their own music can be heard, and that's Mixcloud. Now, Mixcloud is the only one that actually has a royalty situation set up. Twitch, all the others that many DJs are using, and people were going live on Facebook, people were going live on Instagram. But if they're not playing music that they have the rights to, their pages are coming down. Gamers use music. You know how gamers use a lot of music. So what's happening now is Twitch was really bigger for gamers than for DJs. However, now what's happened is that the performing rights societies have gone after Twitch. And so now even the gamers, which would play music in the background when they were gaming, well, they're losing their pages. They're being taken down. And
that's why everybody's pages was coming down. So this is what I didn't do on, like, the YouTube example. I wasn't using movie trailers, and I didn't want music for those reasons back in the day. I just didn't want to have issues in the future. Now I understand why I didn't want to have that. That's very sad, and it's also kind of not fair, right?
It is very sad. One thing though, although like when you go live stream, it's a little different, but let's say YouTube, let's make that as an example. Now, the one thing about YouTube is there is a royalty structure there, not really for streaming because, that goes fast and, they'll go over it. But let's put it like this. Let's say in most cases on YouTube, you can, in most cases, if you do a pre-mix, depending on the label, most labels, even my own, will allow it to be on YouTube and will not have your page come down as long as you, the person who's put it up, are not trying to monetize it. That's one thing about YouTube. But live streams, that's where it's really tricky, where a DJ is just mixing live. Now, that's where, if you were mixing live on YouTube Live, that's where your stream could be shut down. That's where you could get in trouble. If you do a premix, what could happen is there might be a song or two that a certain record company would not want you to use. Usually it's okay because they'll just send you a warning that this music does not belong to you. But in certain cases, what they'll do is they'll just blank out that audio from that part of your DJ mix, which really isn't very much fun for people who are listening to your mixes. But it's this whole rights issue is really becoming a big thing during COVID, because if you think about it, DJs generally do not own all the music that they play or do not run the record company in general. So and they can't perform live anywhere. So DJs in particular are really being hurt by this rights problem.
Wow. Yeah, I one of the studios that I used, that every Friday night they were having the disc jockey mix stuff in the studio, and I'm like, well, that's a great idea. And then I was like thinking, well, they're live streaming it. Isn't that a challenge? I'm thinking you just answered the question.
It is.
Want a disc jockey on the show? I would love to, to help employ that way, but it's not worth that hassle, of having the show take down,
Yeah, and that could be a real problem. And they are doing that to a number of people. I was actually because now that we're getting really involved with setting up a network, and Body and Balance, they already have their own system for this network. So they're able to work these things out. And presently they're working on getting all of the licensing with all the performing rights societies. Now that's a vast amount of work, which people have no idea, because we're talking about performing rights around the world. We're talking about ASCAP, BMI, Sound Exchange. I don't want to make this boring because it sounds so technical, but I guess the big thing that I'm dealing with right now in my world, because Trax Records has always been a label that has been kind of a DJ driven. From the very beginning, the whole idea of superstar DJs came out of our label. We were the first label to put the DJ's name on the record, as opposed to maybe the vocalist. It was a different approach that we did. And in our case, most of the DJs are DJ producers. But the interesting thing is, so in our part of the world, what we're doing, like let's say somebody's live and they're a band and they're streaming live. Well, they're not using somebody else's recording. So they're not going to have their stream stopped. But a DJ is using somebody else's recording. And also there are even other technical aspects, because I was just on the phone with an attorney earlier today, and he talked about the fact that there's even another layer of licensing needed when you have an actual picture, like by picture, I mean, you can see the DJ mixing live on whatever platform it is. There's another whole thing if you're adding a picture to the music, which is even different than radio per se. So it's interesting.
That's intriguing. It's also interesting because now you start to get into almost like the motion picture arts of type of stuff. You have that picture coming in. Really tricky. Wow. They're not making it easy anymore, are they?
No, and this has become a very big problem recently, because, before COVID, when people could just play their gigs, everybody wasn't in this frantic way going virtual. Now, everybody needs an outlet so badly. Now, the sad part is it's very hard to make money performing virtually at this time. Most people are not doing too well with that. The only way that they're really going to make money virtually is pretty much by having sponsors, or if they use Mixcloud, they can actually earn some money there, but the percentage of what they're earning is so low compared to the big, they're taking 70% at Mixcloud.
Wow.
Right? So there isn't much left, So that's what's happening. And for smaller DJs that, let's say, don't have a lot of viewers on Mixcloud, they're even having to pay to be on Mixcloud to broadcast. Wow. It's not a heavy fee. It's something like $15 a month. But you see, if you're not making any money, even that is like you're paying to play. And this is what is really happening to DJs. Not only are they not earning a living, So it's really rough. I'm glad that, you know, besides being a performer, that I'm involved in actual ownership and you know, distribution and publishing and these things. Because if I wasn't, I would be I'd be really stuck, because without concerts, without shows, most people are in the performing arts are dying. I mean, you know, not dying literally, but, you know, figuratively. Um, we have some acts, like we have Eric B. Turner that's on the label, great vocalist. And generally he does Broadway shows. Broadway is dark. These people have no work.
What's
So
what's the major problem that you've been hearing from the artists, whether it was the rights or just not being able to perform, and if they can get little things here and there based on a small little family thing, but it's so tough. What's the major thing that they're complaining about, and then including virtual, that some of them are just tired of doing that?
well, I think that a lot of people, there are some people that hate virtual altogether. You know,
Yeah.
I'm friends with Grace Jones, and Grace hates the idea altogether, because she loves the idea of having a big show, you know, a real production. And people aren't used to paring down the way you and I are. I mean, I'm used to like really kind of bare bones and simple, just like when you were watching the Tonight Show now and you're seeing, hey, they're like us. It's an equalizer now. They can't have all this big production like they used to. They're kind of going back to the studio, but still, it's a lot more simple than it was prior to COVID. And most people, they have that burnout. They don't feel their shows can be as good when everything is stripped back. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. And then the other thing is, you know, if they have no work at all, which is really difficult. There are things that people are doing now to help out talent. And so I want to just say that people can literally go and sign up for a thing called Patreon. And Patreon, people who enjoy you or enjoy your music or your TV show or whatever it is that you're trying to do that you may not be able to be paid for because of this COVID situation, can actually donate a monthly fee. Even if it's small, it would add up. Or, you know, I was talking to somebody who's a DJ today, and before we're pretty shut down in Chicago. I don't know how it is where you are, but no indoor dining. Now we're not supposed to have groups of more than 6. They're advising for Thanksgiving, do not even have your relatives, have no one except the people that are inside your home with you for the Thanksgiving holiday. So now that we're really shut down, even these little gigs, which people were able to get, are dried up. So I think it's just like no money, no work. And then just missing audiences. People really miss the audience, which I do too. But we're going to have to be used to that, because we don't know. And in a way, I mean, the virtual pluses of virtual, because now that I've said all the negatives about virtual, what I find to be a plus about it is, you know, when I was free to travel and do gigs, let's say I'd be in New York doing a gig, and that's great. I could see all my friends in New York and we could party. Well, now when I do a virtual gig, you know, I could have a friend in Japan, I could have a friend in the UK, and they could, even though, you know, they're reacting to me, they're texting, I can give them shout outs, I can interact with people around the world in this new virtual landscape. So there are positive, I think, aspects to it all.
Those
And
are
just,
those are the benefits of that, because those are the great things. And you were talking about the studios earlier. I mean, I only had 5 people in my studio. That included the engineer. And the first thing
right.
people said on all the shows were they'd look around and they're sitting next to you, because I had to take their temperatures. I had wiped down. I always had Lysol with me, because you're supposed to clean up everything anyhow. So now,
Yes.
doubly and triply, and I always had the hand sanitizer. And people looked at me, thought I was weird, because I've had it with me for years. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
they're like, what are you're not laughing at me now, are you? They go, no. I'm like, you see my little corner over here next to my microphone? I've always had this stuff that you just didn't see it. I always put it near my feet. Now I put it up on the table so everybody knows it's there. So right before the show, as soon as I get there, as we're taking photos, I give them the hand sanitizer and they feel best, they feel comfortable. That's the best that you can do because you can't do so much besides that, you know?
There really isn't. And it's been such a difficult time, I think, for artists in particular, because certain jobs, at least certain jobs, for a while, except when we go in major shutdown, like with the restaurants and stuff, major shutdown. But it's scary, like with your friend, because people aren't taking it seriously. But there is, except for the virtual world, which is growing and growing and growing. And I think the problem with performing rights, that will be sorted out. Right now, as I said, the company I work with, Rights Inc. out of the UK, they're trying to sort that out because they see that's where the future is going. So the future is going to be virtual, and that's it. We've got to go there. You're there, I'm there, and I think others have got to accept, because I don't know when we'll ever go back to the way things were. And furthermore, now that people have gotten used to this, I think a lot of people are going to stay with it, at least to some degree.
Well, and that's why we're saying this is gonna be this way for 5 years. It'll slowly go back to certain things, but it never will revert back. And you can see it from all the jobs that are being cut. I mean, the last 3 weeks, you've had Disney. Today you had NBC and you had Viacom. These are the things I've been watching for the last 2 years because all the companies are too big. And you don't need all these people anymore. You just don't. And I keep reminding people, just think of Disney. Disney has Marvel, Pixar, and the Star Wars franchise. What are they not doing in California? The theme parks are closed. They're not going to open back up. They attempted to in Florida, and then they came back with a quarter, and then they had to let off, guess what? The live performers. That's not good.
No. So I think the virtual world will keep developing. And I've been hearing about, virtual where you wear the 3D goggles and you actually can go inside the party, so to speak. I think virtual is going to grow so much more that it will become an all-around sensation experience for people. And I think it's going to be more like that. And I think it's also going to be interesting that, and you do see it on TV sometimes, or you could even see it here, where you invite other people onto the call. So actually people can interact with you as you're doing the show, and they can be in many different places. So in a way, it's kind of cool. You have to look at the bright side of all this and realize that this is going to push technology. It's going to push the arts. It's going to push everything that we know. We'll never go back to exactly the way we were. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. But right now, it's a bad thing for the people that can't make money to live. That's what.
Yes, and that's the sad point. I mean, I'm thinking of Grace Jones. I'm thinking of her movie. I think of Diana Ross all of a sudden, where they would go on tour and they have these big, huge, elaborate things. No, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Scott Page, last week he was in the studio. We did a one-on-one TV interview. And then what was it, yesterday? I think he texted me. He wanted to do half a virtual, half in studio for just 50 people in a big, huge warehouse. And he has a great idea for it. And certain people were starting to get uncomfortable. Now, remember, it was only 50 people, but it's a huge warehouse and it's cold. And then he was going to have people having certain things delivered. So you have that in-home virtual thing, whether it's wine, certain people are going to have wine delivered to them so they could be part of that. And a great idea, it will work. But the people, some of the performers started to get antsy. And that was interesting. And so he canceled it and pushed it to a later date. And I go, Scott, don't worry about it. The premise will still work, just not for December, maybe for January, February.
Yeah, because now they've cut way back on the amount of people that they want to gather, at least here in Illinois, because the numbers are going through the roof. They say there won't be enough beds in hospitals soon. So it's I don't know. It's just something that we're going to have to push ourselves to go off into this new direction that luckily we're already starting to be there, and we can make it better. Just like right now I'm working on the all the things that will make the music sound as good as it can now that I'm taking it virtual, you know, getting a certain kind of mixer to split the audio, things like that. So I'm working on the things that I need to do to make my virtual show as good as it can be. But absolutely, they're just not wanting people to come together, and I can see why. It's very dangerous, unfortunately, at this time.
Well, that's interesting because it's almost like me. We kicked off our iHeart stuff yesterday, and it's on Skype, not Zoom. So you know, we all have to have our microphones. We all have to have our better lighting, and we just have to do it that way.
Right.
We have to prepare everybody. So when I was, if you remember last time, I was saying it's voiceover, it's animation, it's technology, it's AI. Anything smart tech is where it's going to be. It's not going away.
No, and we have to be prepared for it. And whoever does it best and really, really commands the virtual world, those are the people that are going to really succeed going forward. And it's a whole different way to develop as an artist, and it's a whole different way to have to change your format and realize, what can I do to bring my show into a realm that is kind of spectacular, but pared down, whatever it's got to be, you know, better sound, better lighting. Some people have slides and different things going on. You know, I have a group that we signed called Mindgasm, and they have, like, you know, I guess all this projection. They do stories while they're DJing as far as the visual stories that are going on. So, you know, people are adding things. And then, as I said, with this whole idea of holograms and 3D, it's going to go quite to a place we've never seen, and it's already going there.
But here's the other thing. This is the time where you could take a little bit of time and just pick it all up, because there's only 5 weeks left of the year, basically. And
Yes.
there's no NAMM, all the conventions in January, those are all gone. So you got a short amount of period to get everything going again for the stuff that you didn't get going before, that you didn't pick up and learn before. It's just fine tuning the last of it, because you may not get another opportunity. And you're right. The people, those companies who adapt to it, to that adjusting to the change really quickly, they're going to be fine. The people that don't, they're not going to make it. And that's very sad.
It is. And then the other thing that RightSync was saying is that networks are a thing of the past. Right now, it's all about streaming everything. Streaming music, streaming movies, streaming is where it's at.
And that was the reason why people at NBC were getting laid off, and CBS, because of their streaming. They've got to pick it all up. You got the Peacock streaming, and for them, about their subscribers. And that's one reason why I stuck to the viewers, because I can see what we need. And like I said, I'm so glad 2 years ago I started changing things around, because you could see where we are.
Yeah, exactly. I would have never even imagined that things could get here, but now that they are, rather than letting it totally get me down, because, you know, a lot of people are so down by all. People are committing suicide, divorces of 50%, so many things. You know, it's such a difficult thing. But I think also you can use it, as you said, a time to regroup, a time to learn new skills, a time to better yourself in some ways, you know, and that's what you have to do, rather than just allow it to just tear you apart. Use it to build yourself back up. I know that sounds like a difficult thing for some people, but that's kind of, I've had to really put myself there and say, hey, this is a time for me to write songs, to get my virtual network things working on all the bugs, to get it better quality, and just evolve, because this is it. I mean, this is going to be our world. And then social media numbers, and learning how to really utilize, you know, Google words and all these things that go along with building up a social media presence. These things aren't easy, but that's the wave of the future. We're never going to go back, and that's it.
And that's why it's the time to do it now, because the last 3 Black Fridays, I was always working. The last 2 years, I got sponsors on Black Friday. Who do you know got sponsors on a Black Friday? I did. The last 2 years, and it was outside the U.S.
See that?
I'm already prepared for what to do because I know we've reached our goals. I got 2 more goals. I want to see if I can get my YouTube channel to 2 million views. I'm at 1.3 right now. Between now and the next couple of weeks, I think I can do it. And my goal is to we're at 6.4 million views a day. I want to see if I can get to 10. We'll come close. That's the only 2 goals I have left for the year. And then, and then between now and April 2nd, I want to get 20 to 25 million views a day. I know I can do it, but there's only limited amount of time you can do it when you don't have a lot of people bothering you, and the time is now.
Yes, that's very true. And you're on the right path. In fact, I have to learn a little bit more about those things from you. But, I'm kind of, I have my own challenges, but, I guess I know more about the performing rights because that's my industry. I don't know as much about accumulating the views or that sort of social media marketing as you do, or even sponsorship in that realm, because we're a record company. That's what we do. And it's a whole different world than what you do. But now we're intersecting with what you do.
That's right. There is no difference now. So you could always reach out to me. You'll be surprised for this. I'm always thinking of you, believe it or not. I'm always thinking of what you're doing there in Chicago. And I don't know why. I think I like because of what you started there and how you're adapting. I think that's what it is.
Well, I still really do believe that house music makes people feel good. Maybe it's the beats. There's just something I've always thought that is magic about it. And I think that it gets me through hard times. And I think it gets a lot of people through hard times. And when I do talk to people, even to this day, I mean, a lot of people are like, hey, your music inspires me. It makes me feel good. Thank you. And I'm hoping that is translating, which I believe a lot of it is, to this whole virtual realm that we are in now. That's one thing, is that, that feel good thing can come through even virtually. And I love that, and I think it's great what you're doing, that you have this whole background in, radio and television. And now you're taking it into the new frontier and building.
Well, here's what happened. I tell people I started doing this in 2015 when I was at the Hollywood Film Festival, and I saw what wasn't working. I saw the Chinese coming over. We had them at our festival. We had no money to work with. We were trying to get big sponsorships, and we did everything to make it work, but it didn't. There'll be a documentary on it one day, and I see them sitting down, and I'm the center point, and they're asking me everything because I was there. But I learned that of what not to do, what did work. And that's what I learned about meeting one of my social media influencers, Weekly Chris. He's 24 now. I met him when he was 19, 20. Yeah. And he's got 32 to 34 million followers. I was watching him. Now, a lot of these people, I've caught up to them. So for me, someone from traditional putting new social media and influencers together, because a lot of those influencers aren't making money now. They got to a plateau and people started figuring out, oh, we don't need them anymore. We can do it ourselves now. Just like everybody that you could imagine is doing a podcast or Zoom now. So I always tell you, yeah, everybody can do it, but not everybody can really do it because they're not prepared to do all of the work. That's the difference.
Yeah. And there's a lot of work involved. And a lot of work involved. And also, I think you've got to be on track with what you're presenting, the quality of what you're presenting, what you're representing with all these things. And so you can be an influencer, but it's got to be, you're really like on trend, coming in with a really new hot angles, I suppose. So, because now there are so many influencers. That's another thing. I guess that's a career. to just be an influencer.
Well, yes, that's the case, but it's also your numbers can't keep going up because they changed the algorithms around. They figured out how not to make it for you at that point. That's why I was always saying this. You can always unfollow someone. You can always unsubscribe to someone. You can always unlike, but you can't unview a view, no matter what. Once you click onto that, it's there. You can't take it back. That's why I only go by that. And once I figured that out, and I'm like, okay, there's nothing you can do to me. I'm recession proof and I'm stock proof. So my goal at that point is to help people. So I would be honored to help you. Anytime you need information, you let me know. You reach out to me. I'd love to help you.
Well, I could get you some music for your show that you could legally use.
Hey, anything. Hey, I look at it this way. It's all about cause and effect. Anything that we can do, help us. Because I never forgot the first interview that, Katerina and I forgot, I think it was Terri on with you, that, that's what Katerina listens to. She loves house music and she needs that. So when she comes back into the US, because she's been going through some times, I want to set up something with me and you, and that would make her happy,
Oh, that would be fun. Where is she now?
She's in Greece right now. She's coming back within the next 2 weeks. And, I can't wait to hear the story of when she went through, but, when she left, we had some cases. We got more cases. So now she's coming in at a hot time. Not a good time, And I know the only thing that's getting her through is listening to house music.
And I hope it's getting many people throughout the world through. I'm happy about that. But, and she'll probably have to quarantine too. And that's the whole thing too, is that if you do choose to go somewhere, you got to quarantine for 2 weeks when you get there, know?
Yeah. And that's the issue, so mentally that kind of screws with people. So that's why I'm always calling people and checking on my friends. What do you need? Do you want to come and talk on a show? Do you want to do a Zoom? I called one of my Colombian friends today. You're not doing anything. I see you traveling. Do you want to do a Zoom interviews? And she screwed up twice, but it's not about that. It's about just helping people,
And that's a great thing, because I think, people right now are probably not even reaching out enough to others. Yeah. And I think that's so important, because people are so much getting into their own head, and then also, I think, I was seeing this thing on the news yesterday about now that not everybody, but certain people are using Zoom. A lot of people, like my husband, he puts tape over his camera, right? When he does it, he will not let anybody see him. But I was just seeing this thing on TV where they said the most popular thing besides people having to see doctors for COVID is plastic surgery, now that people are seeing themselves on camera all the time. Isn't that interesting?
Not surprised by that. I learned that from a lot of my adult friends. December was always the month you got your surgery, because AVN was always the beginning of the year in January. Now they moved it back. It's December is still the good time to go and get it,
Well, now that everybody's wearing masks most of the time, they could hide a lot of things, They can even wear a total facial mask, to some degree. And people would consider it okay, because, hey, that's what people are doing,
Yeah.
So it's a completely different world. But now that people are seeing themselves, like the average person is seeing themselves on camera, whereas I've seen myself on camera a lot, and it's not that a lot of times I'm very tough on myself, believe it or not. I'm getting better about it, but I am tough on myself. But I can see that people that don't see themselves, and finally they are seeing themselves, they don't, they're seeing every little fault. They're probably seeing things that others don't notice. In fact, I'm sure of it.
Well, that's what it always is.
Like when it is. This is like listening to a song.
I said, you got this sexy glow to you. And you do.
Thank you.
Now, give your website for everybody.
My website? Oh, yes. Okay. So you can find everything about what I'm up to by hitting our website, which is traxrecords.net. Because if you go to traxrecords.net, you're going to find all of our social media pages to click on the website. So you can find us on all the platforms that we are on and experience the Saturday show, experience the Facebook, the Instagram, all the platforms. And soon, hopefully, we'll be announcing our network. And Sebastian, I hope you're going to be, Brian Sebastian, I hope you're going to be part of that network. That would be great.
I'll be part of that. That'll be fun. I remember you talking about it the last time.
Yeah. It's taking some time, but if you look up Right Sync on the internet, you'll see they've got the experience in that. The biggest, I think the thing that's taking the most time about it is the rights issues, because we're trying to make sure we have all the correct rights in place. And like I said, right now, there's only one platform. Now that's crazy. In this big wide world, one legal platform for DJs to be on.
That doesn't surprise me, actually. And now that I think about it, the next time I come on, I'm gonna have DJ Badash come on with you, because I'm gonna do a part 3, except I'm gonna do it on iHeart, but I want to wait till Katerina gets back. So I already know the show I have planned for you already.
Oh, great. That'll be fun, because I could even send her some of our music that she could play like legally if she wanted to make a mix or something like that.
Absolutely.
You know? Because just like, people license things from us all the time. The show Pose just licensed from us again. We'd licensed to a lot of movies, a lot of this house music that we have, but that's exactly why they do it. Everything, fashion brands license from us, but it's all about giving a license. And sometimes, like if it's somebody small, but it's something that we think it's worthwhile, or we want to help some people out, or sometimes it's educational, or sometimes it's a little film, then we'll allow them to use it, things like that, or it'll be a very low fee. So we're trying to, do our best with that too. But I'm really interested in finding a way for our DJs to actually make money. That's a big thing that I'm personally working on now, and working on with our up and coming network. But we want the network to be all about lifestyle, great interviews, great taking you on location, all kinds of things, people being able to interact with the interviewer and the guests, virtually, things like that. But just ways that people in the arts can not only get their music out there or get their art out there, but actually monetize in the virtual world. That's a big issue. That's something I'd love to be able to do.
See, I think that's really, really great. And I look forward to doing something with you, because, like I said, I'll help you anytime. And what I'll do is I'm gonna call DJ Badash and have her, one, see if she knows you, and two, where I'm like, you need to know Rachel, because that's one reason why I had her on the show. That's one reason why I did a one-on-one interview with her, because she is so talented. She's literally been around the world doing all the stuff because of that. And people forgot that she's a singer, great songwriter and performer. And then all of a sudden she starts to perform. Now she can't perform. And then now she can barely, as be that disc jockey. So I go, be one of our co-hosts instead. We will make sure we get you back out there in a different way. And as you were talking about, this is a different way.
It is a different way. And I think that's great, because that's one thing about me too, because I do, sing and write and DJ and do all those things. And I love talk shows. It's funny because really, Right Sync, which works with me, and, Greg Roselli was formerly with Granada TV and BBC. He's out of the UK. And so he's worked in television for years and years. And he's like, Rachel, you're great on TV. But now there is no such thing as TV. You're great on streaming.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's not going to be networks anymore. That's a thing of the past. And what's kind of sad is, look at all the money that they put in Quibi. Did you know about Quibi? Remember that there were
I knew that was going to take off. I mean, I was there when they presented it at CES, and I'm like, this is not going to take off. Wrong time. I didn't know what was coming. I knew what was coming. If you remember me telling you that, I'm like, great premise. It's not going to work. And unfortunately it didn't, because they had good shows on it. but it didn't catch on.
It didn't catch on, and I think that they had good shows, but one of the things, and actually one of my friends was one of the top executives over there. And one of the things that I thought was really kind of strange is they were paying so much for programming. They weren't even interested in little independent things. They were interested in huge star power that cost them tons and tons of money. And then it didn't even take off at all, because we were trying to say, hey, we'd like to submit, our films, but it was like, well, they're not major, huge stars, even though we do have some celebrities and kind of, people that have been in movies and things like that in the movies, but they weren't like, let's say, Nicole Kidman or Tom Cruise or somebody who's monster box office, they weren't that. So they weren't interested in anything like that. They didn't even want to see it, hear it, think about it. And
that's a major mistake. You can't dismiss any of those things, because that's one reason why I never went with any networks. I never wanted to be on a network. You couldn't pay me to be on a network. I didn't want to be on a network 10 years ago because I saw what was going to happen. And you know when I learned it? I learned it in 1991, 92, when Joan Rivers and Chevy Chase, remember all the comedians are trying to get a late night show and it didn't work?
Yeah.
And I'm like, if they can't do it, what chance am I going to have doing it 10 years later? It's not going to happen. That's when I learned it, because it didn't change. Look where they are now.
And I really have always felt the independent spirit of being able to do it, whether it's the way Trax Records started as this small indie label that a lot of people, well, that's not even music. You will never be able to do it, and that's the whole thing, is that people don't realize the sky's the limit. If you believe in yourself and you're willing to put in the work, the sky's the limit. But you've got to believe that. And that.
Well, remember, each time you come on, we're going to have different numbers. Our numbers always go up. They never stay the same. And then they can't go down because they're views.
Which that's phenomenal, because you're right. What about all these people that just play with the numbers? All these services that can get you 1 million views are just like, okay, we'll get you, but then it all falls away, right? Well, I guess the views don't fall away, but I guess there are ways to even do that if you'll pay enough money.
I heard there was, but then it corrects itself because you could filter out that it's not real.
Yeah.
That's why I keep track of our numbers each day.
You can definitely
so fast that it was taking Google 3 days, sometimes 5-7 days during the retrograde to catch up, and all of a sudden it would jump like 25,000 views. Because
that's fantastic.
And I was like, well, the number, because at least one person is clicking onto a YouTube video.
Yeah.
The numbers were going up because I could see the analytics in real time, but in the about section, it wasn't moving. So I was taking pictures of the graphs. I saw it literally. We got up to 80,000, and within a 5-hour period, it was at 72. It went to 75. It went to 77. It went to 78. An hour with the hours, but the about wasn't moving. That doesn't make sense. And I was taking photos of the graph because I'm always in the analytics. And I was like,
see, that's great.
Our numbers were moving so fast that Google couldn't keep up to our numbers. It'd be different on one phone. I have 2 phones. It'd be different on one phone, different on another phone, and I have 3 computers, different on all 5 devices. What does that tell you?
Wow.
That's why if you go into our Instagram, you'll see graphs. I'm at 56. I'm at 57,000 right now. It was at 52 like 5-6 hours ago, and I took another snapshot of it because I know people won't believe it.
That's pretty cool. I think it's great that you watch the analytics. Now let me ask you a question, Brian. So you're watching these analytics. What do you think causes certain programs or certain things to spike? Do you have any formula at all as to what really works for you?
It's just something that's, like the videos or the shows?
Yeah. Is there anything, a rhyme or reason to certain things that will spike people's attention to you?
I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm putting it on 9 different other sites, not just YouTube. If you look at my graph will say you're getting 257 people watching your videos outside of YouTube. That's what we get. And it's very interesting because I already knew I was going to get that. And it was one of those things where no one else knew, but I knew. And it was very interesting. So at that point, when it comes to that, you can't help that. Like, I don't know if you could see this. See where it says you got so many views on
Yes,
the site?
yes. Your channel.
How many people are getting that? And the answer is nobody that I know of. They don't even know that it exists. Is because I'm putting them on different sites that people don't go to. You know, some people go to Twitter. I'm weak on Twitter, but it will build up once I start working on it. But I needed to get my YouTube to a certain number. So on Halanas, which is a social media site, we have 50,700 views. The numbers keep go up. 3, 6, 9 views each time I put up a video. It keeps climbing. It keeps equaling 100. Put the numbers together, it's always going up, never goes down.
Well, that's phenomenal. I
got to
think
keep doing different things. Just like you said, some people go on Netflix. Some people go to Amazon Prime. Some people go to HBO Max, which is starting to build up because they need to build up. Today, Wonder Woman was announced. It's going to open Christmas in theaters. Theaters aren't open in Los Angeles and New York. They're open in Florida and Texas, but it's also going to go to HBO Max. It's going to make more money on that other platform because the theaters aren't open.
No.
I've been doing this for 2 years. It's like growing a garden. You ever get into a garden, you just start to work on it and you see it slowly growing, but it's growing. And then you take photos and you go away for like 2 days and come back and it's grown more. That's what social media is. You have to grow it on different platforms now, not just one.
Do you use anything like Restream to put your stuff out there? Are you familiar with it?
I do it all by hand.
Wow. Okay.
If I'm waking up between 2 and 4 in the morning, I'm doing my social media in bed. When I go downstairs and I'm running my virus on one computer, I'm working on the other computer until I got 2, because I like to work off both computers. I'm like that octopus who's got hands on all his devices.
That's pretty cool.
But that's how it works.
I really like that.
There's no way I could have done it. I can't do it on one computer. You know how long, what happens when your computer goes down? You're stuck, right? So I didn't want to have my computer go down and then not have my computer to work on.
Do you use all Mac? Do you use
if you can
all
see
PC?
my setup, Rachel, I've got my 2 phones here. One's on this side, one's on this side. I'm going back and forth as I'm talking to you. You just didn't know that. That's cool. One of my secrets. However, it's working.
No, I've got my phone, this one, and I even got a Trax Records.
Hey, as you know, you got to keep up with everything. That's the way to do it. But I've seen the numbers grow. That's why when I see my numbers each day, I'm like, it's like money in the bank, and you're like happy because you could see it. That's our number today. See that number?
That's fantastic. Fantastic.
The number yesterday was.
Oh.
I've been keeping track since April 16th of 2019. So if anybody ever doubted me, all I had to do is just keep scrolling down. These are my numbers. And it goes back to each date.
Now what
no one can ever say anything.
What system has that? That's not in YouTube, is it?
No, it's just I just put it on the calculator. I keep track once a day of the numbers.
Ah, wow. That's pretty impressive.
Well, because people will doubt you. Oh, you're not doing that. I had someone say, you know, I told them, but you know, when I last talked to her, we were reaching up to 1 million on views on the show. We have 2 shows that have 1 million views each. One is at 1,022,000. The other one's at 1,062,000. Rachel, who do you know? And you know a lot of people around the world that have 2 shows that have never been aired that have 1 million views each.
It's actually excellent. And I'm sure that helps you to get some sponsorship and other things like that, correct?
Yeah.
Because you're getting those views. That's fantastic. So you'll be great on our network. Yeah, you'll be great on our.
And that's more important because, as you said, and it's true, networks are dead.
They're dead. So now it's all about streaming services or like things like Netflix. Yeah, and I guess that's
Absolutely.
what we're trying to do, something along those lines.
But here's
And
the
it's
other
also,
difference. The other difference is I'm not in any debt. Disney's in debt 50 billion.
yeah,
Even Apple is in debt right now. Last year they were in the black 242 trillion. They're in debt. I think it's 100 million right now. That's Apple because they didn't have any new phones come out. Their shows aren't getting any traction. They don't have any theatrical release that hits into everything. Their stores were closed for a while. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. That's what separates me from them. I'll take my position over a lot of these big companies any day.
and I agree with you. Just like I love doing my things independently. It's one thing to have uh, major kind of distribution, but to be independent and call all your own shots and decide who you want as a guest, what music you want to release, who I want to sign as an artist, that freedom. I don't want to give up that creative freedom for
Me
anything.
either. And like I said, that's when I learned it from 1991, 92, when people were trying to replace Johnny Carson. I never forgot that. And I said, if they can't do it, there's no way that I could do that.
Yeah, well, things have just changed. It's a whole new world now, and now it's going to be all about the numbers, reaching people, having interesting things on your platform. And like you said, they changed the algorithm. So I guess, being able to keep up with those things. And
And don't
that's,
be surprised if they break up, if Congress breaks up Facebook and Google. Well, not necessarily Google, but Facebook, because they're going to. They're going to rewrite the law. It's going to happen. I won't be
well,
afraid
they're working.
of that stuff because I already have the numbers. But as if you could see what's going on with Mark Zuckerberg and what's been happening, this affects a lot of those people.
It does. And the thing is, people, I was watching something on YouTube where they were saying, when Zuckerberg gets on and does these talks that he does, and then people would be texting and they'll be saying, how could you be taking down these DJs? And, you're not. But the thing is, he is not set up for the performing rights. As big as Facebook is, he is not set up for that.
Yeah.
So it is not his fault. They're trying to blame him, but he's not set up for it. Maybe he should have gotten set up for it, whatever. But it's interesting to know that he's not.
Well, he also had enough time to change things around. Was never about money. They
No.
just didn't want to because things were working their way and they were taking the money.
Yeah, I guess that's really true because now it's like you can't do that. You can't broadcast like that unless you get whitelisted, like I got whitelisted because of the, having the intellectual property. But if it wasn't for that, they'd take down my Facebook page.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and when you're
but you're doing the right thing and you're doing it smart.
Yeah, and what I really want to do though is make it possible for other DJs and performers to be able to, do their mixes and still be monetized. At the same time, the artists who create the music, the original creators, to also be able to monetize too. And in this world of streaming, it's very difficult to make money with music that's streamed. What is becoming the thing that people are making money on is their brand.
Exactly.
Your brand is everything.
Yep. Give your website one more time.
All right. It's Trax Records, TRAX Records.net. And there you can find the Trax merch. You can find all the social media. You can you can contact us and send us music. Everything can happen right there.
Rachel, it's always a pleasure and an honor to talk to you. I am going to do another one with you on our other platform, and I'm going to get DJ Badash and I'm going to get Katerina on, and we're going to make this a fun show. I want to take the time because, and you look lovely. I can never say it just enough. And I love your background too.
Oh, yeah. All this interesting stuff, right?
Exactly.
All the fun, all the records, all that stuff. It's like my little mini museum,
Hey, he's
all
iconic.
kinds of things dealing with vinyl records. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I love it. And thank you.
So to end with this, I'm going to say, hey, if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. And I'm Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. We will see you next week.